Germany is changing its approach to China. For years, Germany enjoyed a strong economic relationship with the Asian giant. However, concerns are growing in Berlin. Germany is increasingly worried about relying too heavily on China. There are worries about economic risks, unfair competition, and political influence. Germany wants to de-risk its relationship with China. This does not mean cutting ties completely. Instead, it means becoming less dependent. Germany wants to diversify its trade partners and protect its own interests. This shift in German policy is partly driven by internal factors. German businesses are facing more competition from Chinese companies. There are also concerns about human rights and intellectual property theft. The changing geopolitical landscape is also playing a role. The rivalry between the United States and China is creating uncertainty. Germany is trying to navigate this complex situation and find a new balance in its relationships. While Germany reevaluates its ties with China, Beijing is actively strengthening its European connections. China understands the importance of Europe in the global economy and sees Germany as a key partner. China's foreign minister, Wang Yi, has been actively engaging with European leaders, including German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. He emphasizes cooperation, free trade, and multilateralism, seeking to portray China as a reliable partner. China has been particularly successful in attracting investment from Eastern and Southern European countries eager for infrastructure development and economic growth. This engagement, however, has raised concerns in some European capitals about potential over-reliance on China. China's diplomatic efforts extend beyond Germany. Beijing is actively seeking to expand its influence throughout the European Union, capitalizing on the bloc's economic power and seeking to drive a wedge between the EU and the United States. The global trade landscape is undergoing a period of significant turbulence, largely driven by the trade policies of former US President Donald Trump. His aggressive use of tariffs, particularly against China, has disrupted global supply chains and created uncertainty in the global economy. Trump's America First approach has alienated many traditional U.S. allies, including Canada and several European countries. These nations, feeling the economic pinch of trade wars and disagreeing with the unilateral approach taken by the U.S., are increasingly looking for alternative economic partnerships. The European Union in particular has felt the impact of U.S. trade policies. Disagreements over tariffs on steel and aluminum as well as digital taxes have strained transatlantic relations. This has created an opportunity for China to present itself as a more reliable and predictable trade partner. Canada, heavily reliant on trade with the US, has also been impacted by the trade tensions. The renegotiation of NAFTA and the imposition of tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum have strained relations between the two North American neighbors. The allure of the Dragon EU and Canada explore new paths. With the United States seemingly retreating from its global leadership role in trade and diplomacy, both the European Union and Canada are reassessing their options and exploring new partnerships. China, with its growing economic might and ambitious global infrastructure projects, presents an attractive alternative. For the EU, strengthening ties with China offers a way to diversify its economic relationships and reduce its reliance on the United States. China's massive Belt and Road Initiative, while controversial, holds the promise of significant infrastructure investment and trade opportunities. Canada, facing U.S. protectionism, sees potential in deepening its economic relationship with China. However, concerns remain in Ottawa about China's human rights record and aggressive foreign policy, particularly in the South China Sea. Despite the potential benefits, both the EU and Canada remain cautious about fully embracing China. Concerns about China's human rights record, intellectual property theft, and lack of transparency in its political system continue to cast a shadow over the relationship. A new world order, geopolitical shifts, and uncertain futures. The evolving relationship between Germany, the EU, Canada, and China is indicative of a broader shift in the global order. The unipolar world dominated by the United States is giving way to a more multipolar system, with China emerging as a major power. This shift presents both opportunities and challenges for the international community. On the one hand, a more multipolar world could lead to greater balance and cooperation. On the other hand, it also raises the risk of increased competition, miscalculation, and conflict. The rise of China in particular is reshaping the geopolitical landscape. Its growing economic and military might, coupled with its assertive foreign policy, is challenging the existing order and creating uncertainty about the future. The United States, while still a dominant power, is facing increasing challenges to its global leadership. Its withdrawal from international agreements, unilateral actions, and domestic political polarization have eroded its standing in the world. The view from Washington: shock and uncertainty. The shifting dynamics in Europe and Canada, particularly the potential for closer ties with China, have not gone unnoticed in Washington. The prospect of traditional allies seeking alternative partnerships, potentially diminishing U.S. influence, has been met with a mix of shock and uncertainty. The Trump administration's America First approach, while intended to reassert U.S. dominance, may have inadvertently contributed to this shift. By prioritizing narrow national interests and engaging in trade disputes with allies, the United States may have pushed them closer to China. The Biden administration faces the challenge of repairing relations with allies and restoring U.S. credibility on the world stage. However, the task is complex, as the geopolitical landscape has shifted significantly and China's influence continues to grow. The United States remains wary of China's growing assertiveness and its human rights record. Washington sees Beijing as a strategic competitor and is likely to continue pushing back against what it perceives as Chinese attempts to undermine the existing international order. Conclusion: navigating a multipolar world. The evolving relationship between Germany, the EU, Canada, China, and the United States highlights the complexities of the emerging multipolar world. Navigating this new landscape requires careful diplomacy, strategic thinking, and a willingness to adapt to changing circumstances. For Germany and the EU, balancing economic interests with security concerns and democratic values will be crucial. Engaging with China while upholding human rights and the rule of law will be a delicate balancing act. Canada, caught between its largest trading partner and a rising global power, faces difficult choices. Balancing economic opportunities with concerns about sovereignty and national security will require careful consideration. The United States, while seeking to maintain its global leadership, must recognize the limits of unilateral action and the importance of alliances. Repairing relations with partners and forging a united front on issues of common concern will be essential. The world is entering a period of uncertainty and transformation. How these relationships evolve will shape the geopolitical landscape for decades to come. Dialogue, cooperation, and a commitment to a rules-based international order will be essential to navigating the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead.